You do not win a world war with a plywood boat. That was the rule. Steel wins wars. Battleships win wars. Massive guns mounted on floating fortresses win wars. The German High Command believed it. The British Admiralty believed it. Even the United States Navy believed it. If you wanted to invade a continent defended by mines, machine guns, artillery, and concrete bunkers, you needed heavy cruisers and armored divisions. You needed tonnage. You needed steel. What you did not need, what you certainly could not depend on, was a flat-bottomed, shallow-draft craft made of plywood, powered by a modest engine, with sides so thin a rifle round could punch through them. To German planners studying the Atlantic Wall in 1943, the idea of small landing craft storming Fortress Europe seemed almost laughable. They fortified cliffs. They wired beaches with obstacles. They zeroed artillery on every likely landing zone. They believed any assault force would be shattered before it touched sand. And in Washington, many naval officers quietly agreed. Amphibious warfare on that scale had never been done. Not across 3,000 miles of ocean. Not against the most heavily defended coastline on Earth. The rule was simple. Small boats die. But in 1944, one stubborn boat builder proved the rule wrong. Andrew Jackson Higgins is not a general. He is not an admiral. He does not wear medals. He was 58 years old in 1944. Thick-accented. Sharp-tempered. Catholic. Born in Nebraska, raised in the American Midwest, and building boats in New Orleans swamps long before the Navy ever noticed him. He builds shallow-draft craft for trappers and oil workers, boats that glide through Louisiana marshes where bigger vessels run aground. He designs them to run straight onto mud banks and then back off without getting stuck. That one feature, running straight onto shore, will change the course of the 20th century. When war looms in the late 1930s, the Marine Corps begins searching for a landing craft that can carry men directly onto beaches. Existing designs force soldiers to climb over the sides. Under fire, that means chaos. Men tangle in gear. They drown. They die before firing a shot. Higgins watches Navy officials struggle with impractical prototypes. He tells them flatly, "You're thinking like sailors. You need to think like men trying to hit a beach and survive." He modifies his swamp boat. Adds a ramp at the front, inspired by a Japanese landing craft he studies in a photograph. Reinforces the hull. Installs a reliable 225 horsepower gray marine diesel engine. The result becomes the LCVP, landing craft, vehicle, personnel. 36 feet long. Just over 10 feet wide. Draft of 3 feet. It carries 36 fully equipped soldiers or a jeep and 12 men. It can hit the sand at 12 knots, drop its ramp in seconds, unload, reverse, and pull away. It is simple. Cheap. Mass-producible. And by 1943, the stakes demanded exactly that. Hitler's forces occupy Western Europe from Norway to the Spanish border. The Atlantic Wall bristles with over 15,000 concrete bunkers. Machine gun nests overlap fields of fire. Millions of mines line the beaches. German divisions, more than 50 stationed in France, wait inland. To defeat Nazi Germany, the Allies must cross the English Channel and establish a foothold in France. Not raid. Not bombard. Invade. And that means delivering more than 150,000 troops to open beaches in a single day. So what does victory even look like? It looks like thousands of small boats. But can plywood and determination punch through concrete and steel? That is the challenge Higgins faces, whether he stands on the beaches or not. Production explodes. Higgins Industries in New Orleans expanded from a few hundred workers to more than 20,000. Women weld. Black and white workers labor side by side in segregated America, an unusual integration for the time. The assembly lines roar day and night. By 1944, American factories produced over 20,000 Higgins boats. Each one is identical. Each one built to slam into hostile shores. German intelligence notices the build-up in England. Recon flights report endless rows of small craft along the southern coast. Officers in Berlin dismiss them as transport auxiliaries. They underestimate the scale. June 6, 1944. You are standing in the dark at 4:30 a.m., somewhere in the English Channel. The sea churns. The wind cuts cold. Ahead of you lies Normandy. Behind you float 5,000 vessels, the largest invasion fleet in human history. And around you bob hundreds of Higgins boats. At H hour, approximately 6:30 a.m., the first waves head toward Omaha Beach. Engines roar. Diesel fumes burn your nose. 36 soldiers pack shoulder to shoulder. Each man carries nearly 70 pounds of equipment. Rifles clatter against metal helmets. No one speaks. The coxswain shouts over the engine. 1,000 yards. German artillery opens fire. Shells land among the incoming craft. Water erupts. One boat vanishes in a column of spray and splintered wood. 800 yards. Machine guns chatter from bluffs 100 feet above the sand. Tracer rounds streak low across the water. Bullets slap into hulls with a hard, cracking sound. Men flinch. Some pray. 500 yards. The ramp is still up. You can see the obstacles now, steel hedgehogs, wooden stakes tipped with mines. The tide rises fast. If the boat grounds too early, you disembark into chest-deep water. A shell lands close. The hull shudders. Wood fragments sting your face. 300 yards. Another boat to your left erupts in flame. Fuel ignites. Men spill into the sea. Failure feels certain. German commanders watch through binoculars from fortified positions. They expected chaos. They expected slaughter. And they are getting it. But the boats keep coming. Wave after wave. At Omaha alone, nearly 1,000 landing craft operated that morning. Your coxswain guns the engine. 200 yards. Water shallows. The keel scrapes sand. Drop it. The front ramp slams down with a metallic crash. Machine gun fire pours directly into the opening. The first men fall instantly. The rest surge forward anyway. Because the ramp allows something revolutionary: speed. Direct exit. No climbing over the sides. No piling up in confusion. In seconds, the boat empties. The coxswain reverses engines. The Higgins boat backs off the sand, pivots, and heads for another load. And this repeats. Again. And again. And again. Utah Beach. Gold. Juneau. Sword. By nightfall, more than 156,000 Allied troops stood in Normandy. Over 4,000 Allied soldiers lie dead. Thousands more are wounded. Omaha Beach nearly collapses under German fire. But the boats never stop. They deliver tanks. Jeeps. Artillery. Medical teams. Ammunition. They ferry wounded back to ships. They return with reinforcements. Without those boats, the first waves drown. The second waves never land. The beachhead fails. German commanders begin to grasp what is happening. The scale overwhelms them. Their coastal guns knock out individual craft, but they cannot stop thousands. Concrete cannot shoot fast enough. Steel cannot reload quickly enough. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage and genius deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. By June 7th, over 326,000 troops crossed the Channel. In the following weeks, more than 2 million Allied soldiers moved through Normandy. And nearly every one of them touched French soil because a 36-foot plywood boat carried them there. Hitler reportedly later admits, through captured conversations, that Allied landing craft production shocked him. German planners had miscalculated. They believed defenses could repel an invasion. They never believed the Allies could land in such overwhelming numbers so quickly. The rule had shattered. Small boats did not die. They multiplied. What they didn't know was that the true battle was logistical. Within weeks of D-Day, the Allies established artificial Mulberry harbors and began pouring supplies into France. But the first critical 48 hours, the fragile window when Germany could have driven the invaders back into the sea, depend entirely on those landing craft. If Omaha collapses, the invasion splits. If Utah fails, airborne divisions remain isolated. If reinforcements stall offshore, German panzer divisions counterattack and crush the beachhead. Instead, the opposite happens. The sheer volume of men and material overwhelms German reaction time. By late August 1944, Paris was liberated. By May 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered. Dwight D. Eisenhower later states plainly, "Andrew Higgins is the man who won the war for us." Not because Higgins fired a weapon, but because he solved the one problem that made victory possible: getting an army onto a hostile shore. Over 20,000 Higgins boats were built during the war. They serve in North Africa, Sicily, Italy, the Pacific, and finally Normandy. They are damaged, destroyed, replaced. But they never stop. Andrew Jackson Higgins died in 1952 at age 66. He does not command armies. He does not storm beaches. Yet historians estimate that without his landing craft, D-Day likely fails, or costs exponentially more lives. Think about the men in those boats. Farm boys from Iowa. Factory workers from Detroit. Dock workers from Brooklyn. Teenagers are barely 18 years old. 36 at a time. Ramp down. Run forward. Some never make it past the surf. To this day, restored Higgins boats sit in museums in New Orleans, Normandy, and across the United States. Veterans who once rode inside them describe the smell of diesel, the sting of salt spray, the rattle of machine gun fire against plywood walls. They remember the moment the ramp dropped. They remember running. And they remember that a toy carried them into history. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Andrew Jackson Higgins and the thousands of men who crossed the channel in his boats do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.